Hello, I'm Tortor and I'm a stop motion animator and film director, and I have ADHD. I've made a film about that. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how to survive in the workplace as a creative with ADHD. There are many things that will make your life a lot easier, and there are many things that will do the exact opposite. If you're anything like me, you have probably had many different jobs, and you probably aren't in a job for very long. It's very hard to stick with a job over a long period of time because it's it's challenging, it's difficult. We operate differently. Our brains are happy in different settings to neurotypical people. So I'm going to use some personal examples of jobs that I've had and experiences that I've had in the workplace to illustrate what makes life easier when you have ADHD and what doesn't. Because surviving can be tough. I know that firsthand. A lot of you watching probably are freelance like me. It can be precarious, it can be scary, and your income can go up and down quite dramatically. It's not easy. We have a really hard time. But this video will hopefully help you see more clearly how you can thrive with ADHD in the workplace. So, some of the things that I have found that really have helped me are having flexibility. You don't want to have really strict parameters to what it is you're doing, especially when you're creative. You want there to be a deadline, which we tend to love, and there to be an outline to what you need to do, but it's not dictated to you and you're not micromanaged because that will just drive us bonkers. We need to have flexibility and freedom to approach whatever it is that we're doing in our own way, in the way that works best for us. That's why I feel like working from home for an ADHD person is one of the most ideal situations because you can work at whatever time suits you best. Willow, can I have the ball, please? Sorry, this is my dog. Yeah. Willow. You can nap. So I'm a napper. I often get overwhelmed and crash out in the afternoon. And when I have worked in a 9 to 5 job in a office, that's problematic. You can't just go to sleep at your desk. So being able to work the hours that are best for you from home is ideal, and being able to have those naps when you need them, being able to be comfortable and to not be constantly having to mask and self-conscious because of the people that are around you in a workplace. It just saves your energy and just makes things a lot easier. It can be incredibly exhausting and draining being around other people all day and having to be your best self and put yourself across in a way that other people accept you and don't think that you're strange or weird or neurodivergent. But yeah, we have a really tough time with all sorts of jobs. One of the biggest differences that I've found for myself is that when you have ADHD, you can deal with acute stress and urgency and pressure far better often than a neurotypical person. But when it comes to more chronic stress, we completely burn out and are overwhelmed, and it's terrible. So what do I mean by this? Well, in the creative world, a lot of the job roles that I've been drawn to are things that are a bit high pressured and a little bit stressful. So I have been a camera operator for live dance, where I filmed live dance performances. You're in the moment. It makes you alert because you don't have a second go. You have to just do it in the moment. And that gets the best out of me. I've also done jobs where I have filmed at award ceremonies and interviewed people. And again, that is a environment where I can thrive. It's also an environment, though, that is incredibly overwhelming. And unfortunately, the people that hired me to do those sort of jobs were not very adaptive to my needs. I would request knowing things ahead of time, knowing who I was interviewing, where, when I needed to be, and they were very bad at giving me the information that I needed, and were also very they change the plan very often, which again, if you have ADHD or autism or anything neurodivergent, it's not ideal because you plan for all the scenarios, and then when the plan changes, it's just a bit too overwhelming. And also in these environments where I was filming at award ceremonies, it was very loud. There's lots of people, there's lots of stimuli. And so whenever I did do a job like this, although in the moment I could sort of laser and focus, and because of the kind of the stress and the pressure, perform quite well, afterwards I'd be absolutely exhausted and shattered and burnt out and literally have to sleep for a few days. Well, not completely, but you know what I mean. Sleep a lot more than usual. And I still find that today with social situations. I attend a lot of film festivals and social things, and I'm having to speak in front of lots of people and to lots of people, and it's very draining. And I don't think people realize just quite how tired ADHD can make you. And being neurodivergent as well, it's just really exhausting to live in a world that's not designed for us. So what do I mean about not being good with chronic stress? Well, working in an environment that's not designed for you. And when I worked in a office environment, 9 to 5, I didn't realize the extent of my neurodiversity. At the time, I knew I had dyslexia. I wasn't aware of the autism and the ADHD. But in that environment where you're surrounded by colleagues, there's lots of distractions and noises, and you are sort of being watched and breathed down your neck by a line manager or a boss, and you're having to work to deadlines and work in specific ways that perhaps aren't aligned with your brain. For example, I did a lot of creative work designing documents and editing video and stuff like that, and there'd be a lot of file management and ways that you have to kind of organize all of your structures in your work so that if something happened and you had to hand it over to somebody else, they'd be able to understand. And of course, that makes a lot of sense. But to somebody who's neurodivergent, and especially with ADHD, if you're creative and you're doing filing and you're in the zone and you're hyper focused and you're like in Photoshop or Premiere Pro or After Effects, it's chaos. It makes sense to you, but you can't hand that over to somebody else. So I got into a lot of problems where I would be able to produce work quite quickly and to quite a good level, and they were happy with it. And it even pictures that I made went off to commissioners, and some of my input led to commissions and stuff like that. But in behind the scenes, it was absolute chaos. Like my file management, my file structuring was terrible. So there was a layer of stress with that, and just constantly having to be on and having to be coming up with ideas and being creative. Like my creative juices were completely sucked dry in that job. I was working in television and in development, which is a really fun place to work if you have ADHD, because it's very fast paced and there's excitement and pressure and all of that. But the thing is, it's not just short lived. In a short burst, that's great. Urgency, a short deadline. Someone with ADHD, we thrive. But when you have that every single day, all the time, and you can't switch off, and when you get home, you've got absolutely no energy left for anything that you want to do. I would literally get home, eat something, go to sleep, have to get up, and I'd be off again. And like, I never had any creative energy left for myself. And I was there for about 18 months to 2 years in total, which was the longest I've stayed in any sort of role. And I was broken. I was signed off work by my GP. I was completely burnt out. I didn't understand fully why at that time. I had suspicions, perhaps, but it was absolutely awful. And those sort of environments are not a place where someone with ADHD will thrive. I was in a busy bank of desks. If I had known, if I could have voiced what I needed to make my life and my working environment better, I would have had a better time. Back then, I didn't know. But I think one of the most important things, if you find yourself working in an environment like that, is to ask for a desk that is in a separate room or off to the side, so there are less distractions. There are less people crossing your path or your eye line that are going to take your attention or come and distract you. Because if you're in the middle of something and you're hyper focused and you're really like in the zone, and then somebody comes over to ask you a question, which often is a silly question, and it takes you out of that, it can be really hard to get back in and to complete the work. And it's just overstimulating. Often office lights in those environments are very bright. There's a lot of noise going on. Obviously, if I had known how much that was exhausting me, I could have worn some sort of earplugs, which I do now have. Back then, I didn't. But it's not an environment where you can thrive. To survive as an ADHD person in the workplace, it's much more about creating your own happy place. And this only comes with experience and time. So the more jobs that you do, the more discomfort that you face, the more you work out what is good for you and what helps you thrive. It can be things like working from home, being able to work at a time that suits you, being able to have naps when you need, to go out for a walk when you need without feeling guilty or feeling like someone's going to tell you off. Trying to show up early every day for a office job doesn't suit many of us, but being able to get out of bed at 9:30 or 10 and then just start working, that's much better aligned to most people with ADHD. And even if your employer is more flexible, if you are freelance and you have clients, it might be that you can work in the evening and work as late as you want. As long as you get the work done and it's to a good standard, then they're not going to grumble. If you can find ways to work that suit your needs and allow you to have that healthy balance, then you're going to thrive and survive as an ADHD person in the workplace. That's not to say that it's going to be easy. It's still going to have its challenges. And for me, I really struggle with like either taking on too much or not having anything at all, because sometimes it can be really overwhelming when work comes in. And I know a lot of us with ADHD, we doubt ourselves and we kind of have that imposter syndrome and we think, oh, am I actually capable? Could I actually do that? And sometimes we push things away that we're probably totally capable of doing. And I've done that a lot in my life, as well as taking on too much and being completely overwhelmed. I've significantly underestimated how long projects are going to take. So this is one of the negative sides of being freelance and being your own boss. It has so many positives that really make life easier when you have ADHD. But there are other struggles we have, such as time management, organization, and time blindness, understanding how long something's going to take us. Again, this can get better with experience and practice, but I still will underestimate how long something's going to take me. And so then you might undercharge. And so then you're working yourself into the ground and not even getting paid for it. Or you are taking on so much and then you're just so stressed because you're working more hours than you're capable. And like I said before, this is okay in the short term. If it's just like one day, one evening, one night that you have to work to get something done, that's fine. But when it builds up and it's over and over and over again, that is when we burn out, because that sort of chronic stress, that chronic overwhelm is not good for anybody, but it's especially not good if you're neurodivergent and if you have ADHD. So the happy place for most people, and this is my experience, is having deadlines, but being allowed to complete the work in whichever way suits you best, in your own time, in your own environment, in your own way. My method of working isn't always the way that most people would work. Neurotypicals, I think, approach a lot of tasks in a different way. When you're ADHD, you often solve a problem, you come at something from a completely different angle and do it in a very unique way. And it's special, it's incredible. I think it's better. You know, our brains are so super hyper creative that we can find shortcuts, we can find the easiest way to do something in the least amount of time. But that's not always the way that other people want us to do something. I think when a client or employer gives you the freedom to just do it in your own way, and as long as the result is good and you get it in on time, then that's all that matters. So essentially, the roles that are going to suit you best are the ones that may present some short term urgency, stress, pressure, but it's like a kind of closed thing. Maybe you're a photographer at events and there's that kind of, you're in the moment, you have to get these photographs. That's really exciting. Same with videography. If you're an animator, it can be a similar thing. But I've had jobs as an animator where I've had to animate on location. I've done it in a hotel, I've done it in someone's house, and the clients have been there watching me animate. And again, that is not a way to thrive when you have ADHD. It can be very stressful and uncomfortable when you have somebody literally watching everything that you're doing and they don't understand what you're doing and you're doing it, but it's like everything you're doing, you're sort of like, because you're second guessing everything and trying to do it in a way that makes it appear, I don't know, it's difficult to explain, but you're not doing it in the way that you would do it if someone wasn't watching. Um, you haven't got that that calmness and that sort of, I can't think what the word is.